Hey everyone, this is Zach with Collecting Weekly. Wanted to do a showcase video of some different sculpts that are available for Darth Vader in 1/6 scale, and then compare them to some Hot Toys head sculpts. So we're going to start with the one that probably everyone knows about, which is the Sideshow Deluxe head sculpt. You can see I've removed it from the collar, and on this one I also added some paint to the eyes. But this is kind of like the scale that everyone is familiar with. There's also the Ultimate Hero Villain Anakin Skywalker, which I repainted to be kind of like a freshly wounded Anakin slash Darth Vader. And you can see those are pretty close in scale. The Anakin Ultimate Hero Build-A-Figure, whatever you call it, the transformation figure, I think both of these heads are pretty large, and then when you compare them also to the Kenner 14-inch Vader head, which was customized and painted by my wife, you can see how big some of these are. Now, when you compare them to a Hot Toys head sculpt of of Luke Skywalker, you can see that these are definitely significantly larger, and this one is a little bit larger. When I compare that to the Hot Toys Anakin head, you can see how much smaller this head is than these offerings. Now, when I had gotten the Tony May Vader head, which is this head here, my initial thought was that it was a little small, and that's because my frame of reference was these three heads. But when you can compare them to the Luke head and the Anakin head, it's actually quite larger than both of those. And I think even the Tony May head might be a tiny bit too large. When you compare this head, which is the one that I commissioned, this is the 1/6 Sebastian Shaw from the RPF. The file, we scaled it down to 1/6 scale. And you can see when you compare this head to Anakin's head, they are really close in scale. And I think that I like the size of this the best personally. Now, it does look somewhat small in the collar because the collar is sized to fit this head sculpt, and this one can also squeeze in there as well. Both these Tony May custom head sculpt and the 3D printed one, they kind of get swallowed up by that collar because of its size. Excuse me about that, but they both get swallowed up because of their size being smaller than this head sculpt here. So yeah, this is kind of just a quick video to show you guys how this head sculpt compares to these other 1/6 scale head sculpts. Let me put Luke next to Vader, or Anakin, I guess, and we'll squeeze Anakin into here. And you can see that it's a fairly well-sized head sculpt. Again, these two being significantly larger because they are for a 14-inch Vader, and I think the electronic Vader is 15 inches, if I remember correctly. But the Tony May head sculpt is an excellent option as well. A little bit larger than these head sculpts, but again, Vader is quite a large person. So that's an idea of kind of what you're working with. My Facebook group for the Collecting Weekly is Collecting Weekly Auxiliary, and we're doing a very small group buy for this head sculpt here, which you would get a molded copy, and those are $10. The 3D file was a free file, and the owner of the file, the creator, asked that no one profit from it, and so that's why we're charging just $10 for the head sculpt, and then obviously shipping at cost. And if you order one of those casts, this is kind of what you can expect. So this is a cast which is made from the original, and because they're $10, we're not really worrying too much about small resin bubbles that need to be filled. Those will very easily be able to be filled with some gap filler, some liquid green stuff, and then sanded down. And there'll be probably a small mold line on the back like this that will need to be taken care of. But again, for $10, this Tony May head was, I believe it was $80, if I remember correctly, and this is 10. So Obviously the finishing on this one was significantly nicer than the finishing on this one, but it's because I don't want to make a profit off of these that they are so cheap. We're only going to be making 10 of these for our listeners, and then we're going to stop the run. And you know, if you don't get in on the first 10, I personally don't think that I feel comfortable making a second batch. So for now, like I said, it'll just be the initial 10. So hopefully this video helps convince some people to check out this head sculpt. Like I said, it does look a little bit small compared to the other larger heads and inside the collars that are designed to fit these larger heads. But I think overall, I think it looks really excellent when you compare it to other 1/6 scale head sculpts that are appropriately sized.